addressing Arne Duncan, President Obama, and the New York State Regents. I entered the world of advocacy when my youngest child was diagnosed with autism, and my oldest child was diagnosed with a learning disability. I'm certain I do not have to remind you of Dr. Martin Luther King's work, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. These legal changes greatly affected the opportunities available to women, non-black minorities, disabled individuals, and other victims of discrimination. The civil rights movement is alive and well in me, and I've decided to pick up Dr. King's fallen banner and challenge the unchallenged injustices nestled deeply and covertly insidious within our society. I'm here today speaking on behalf of the 6.4 million special ed students in the United States. The Common Core and special education is a perfectly wrong matchup. Even their titles repel each other. When it comes to the topic of Common Core and special needs children, the developmental inappropriateness of the Common Core enters a new and deeply troubling dimension. As every teacher and parent of special needs students know, the exact reason why there is such a thing as an IEP and a Section 504 accommodations is because there's nothing common between any two special education students. Nothing. To beg the point, because every special education student is a highly unique individual, the Common Core by its very existence is antithetical to every one of their situations. By its very title, the Common Core is 100% wrong for our children. One of the greatest flaws of Common Core is its one-size-fits-all approach. One size does not fit all. In addition to the above, the Common Core directly contradicts well-settled research on how most people think and learn. In particular, there seems to be an unawareness of the sequence, pacing, and dynamics of the cognitive disabilities of children, as well as to the extent to which a child's environment affects these abilities. The Common Core is upwardly spiraling staircase of abstract, conceptual, and intuitive thinking, a mode of cognition that at most 30% of the population can do naturally. Any teacher who has taken a special needs course knows that any child with learning disability needs extra time to process and master skills. And therefore, some children should only have 1/3 to 1/2 less content to deal with per semester. Teaching more intensely in a class will not compensate for their extra time that's needed. Because of the mainstreaming and education mandates, those children with learning disabilities are on the same track and schedule as their peers, forcing them to run a race at the same time, same pace in a 180-day school year. It doesn't matter how many undifferentiated methods a teacher uses, the element of time is fixed for both learning disabilities and the child. The others to accomplish the same performance level for the same content come June. I believe the subsequent policies of No Child Left Behind were delusionally blind to the fact that special needs students even existed. By the end of the school year 2013-14, all students had to be at grade level proficiency. That is, all students in the entire country. This is counterintuitive to the purpose of an IEP. This is especially true in situations where a student has cognitive capability multiple years lower of his or her current grade level. Students with intellectual and developmental disabilities often function many years below their actual grade level peers. This is adding to the burden and failure of these students who should be instructed for independence in activities of daily living. There is no reference in the simplest of ADLs in the Common Core for these students with the most difficult challenges. Common Core standards in K through 6, especially K through 3, are developmentally inappropriate in substantial ways. A deep well of early childhood experts have gone on record as being concerned that the Common Core shows little or no understanding that children are not miniaturized adults who are capable of accomplishing many things called for at various grade levels. Dr. Peter Gray from Boston University published The Decline of Play and the Rise of Mental Disorders. In addition to describing play as critical learning experience, he also compellingly cites that the reality over the past 60 years in the United States, there has been a gradual overall dramatic decline in the children's freedom to play without adult direction. Over the same period, there's been a gradual but overall dramatic increase in anxiety, depression, feelings of helplessness, suicide, and narcissism in children and adolescents. For those parts of the Common Core which cognitive research has not yet contradicted, there is evidentiary research to support its claims going forward. for example, college and career ready. Even if such research were measurable, it would be a vast undertaking and would take decades. When calculated together, all of these reasons smack of educational malpractice for any state, continuing onward with the Common Core's great experiment on America's children. As corollary to the above, the Common Core is most probably unconstitutional at a federal level. Control of school standards in any capacity is not a right given to the federal government by the United States Constitution. The fallout of what is occurring to special ed children is devastating. 2/3 of children with disabilities are performing well below grade level in reading and math. By 8th grade, that figure rises to 90%. Only half of the students with disabilities leave school with a standard diploma. In some states, the achievement gap on the state achievement test between students with disabilities and those without is 45 percentage points. With the lack of funding on the federal and state levels and the move to standardize every child, I personally feel that it almost seems like your education policies will undo all of the work that has been done thus far in providing a free, appropriate public education for all students with disabilities from age 3 to 21. We are seeing a dramatic rise in suspensions and expulsions in early education, not necessarily because of bad behavior, but because these children, especially boys, cannot sit still and listen to a teacher's didactic instruction in pre-K and kindergarten. I personally have seen my children's anxieties increase at the ripe old age of 7 due to the stresses of the Common Core. While I try to understand the original idea and premise of why you would want to overhaul education, I cannot help but ask you, has it been worth all the trauma that it has caused on our nation's children, especially those with special education needs? I believe it's time to halt further implementation until the deficits can be corrected. It's a fact that advocates dedicated to the intimate teasing out of discriminatory practices with our educational institutions are the only real defense everyday people with disabilities have if they cannot speak for themselves or are orphaned. Advocating for the disabled is soul work. It's a personal calling and an investment in riches beyond human comprehension, standing up for the good. I will leave you with one closing poem. A child is like a butterfly in the wind. Some can fly higher than others, but each one flies the best it can. Why compare one against the other? Each one is different, each one is special, each one is beautiful. Thank you.